Hello! I'm doing a reading update and I'll tell you about what I've been reading recently. I finally finished Outlander. Oh my god, this book. I don't actually have it to show you. I read it both as an ebook and an audiobook, neither of which I have nothing to offer. This book, okay. So this book is about a woman in 1940s. She's English. She and her English husband go to Scotland on a sort of second honeymoon type thing, and she travels back in time. So she's an English woman in like 18th century Scotland. And so it's a bit of a genre bendy type book, and I heard about this from this series. I mean, I'd heard about the book before, but I started watching the series and I really enjoyed it, and I was like, I want to start reading the book. The book, I'll start with what I liked about the book, because there is one aspect of the book that I really love, and that is that it is unapologetically female oriented. Partly because it has a female lead, and I described, when I was reading it, I described the book to my sister, and she's like, I didn't know females could travel back in time, as a joke, because usually when there's a time travel story, like, it's about a man. So it has a female protagonist, and she is a fantastic protagonist. She is, you don't agree with all the actions, but she moves the story along, like, really well. And she's sympathetic, even though you don't necessarily agree with her. But it is also unapologetic in its, like, content. It is often classified as a romance novel, and there is a lot of romance in there. And I love that it's just like, yeah, it's romance, it's historical fiction with a bit of fantasy. This is targeting females, because so often, like, males are the target audience, or they're maybe not the target audience, but they're the default audience. And yeah, I love me some female media, that isn't, often it's female media is put down as, chick lit or a chick flick, and it pisses me off, to be honest. So yeah, I love how just, yes, yay ladies, this book is. Then what I don't like, it's just too goddamn long. It is just way too long. It's like 900 pages, and I actually started reading it just originally as an ebook, and I was actually really enjoying it, and I was enjoying how long it was, and how detailed it was, and how lengthy, you really stay in one place for a while and then it switches up and stuff. And then about halfway through, I got really sick of it. Like, maybe 2/3 of the way through, something happened that is a massive spoiler, so I won't spoil it for you, but it just drained all of the tension, all of the conflict, all of the excitement out of the story for me. And the last third was just so boring, so bloated, so aimless. I actually started listening to it as an audiobook on 3 times the speed. And at that point, when you're listening to it, 3 times the speed, you've pretty much just given up. Like, you're following the story just fine. Like, I can listen to stuff 3 times the speed and get the story. Like, yeah, but I can understand it. But you don't really care. Like, you're not savouring the story at all. It felt like bread, like, you're eating bread, and bread is nice, you got a bit of butter on there, and, you're having a nice time, but if you just keep eating bread, you feel full, like you've eaten a lot, but you don't feel satisfied. It was like that. It was, this 900-page brick of a novel that left me unsatisfied. Ugh. Yeah, I definitely won't be continuing with the series, but I am interested, like, I really enjoyed the story, so I'm definitely, I think I'm gonna continue on watching the TV show and follow the series like that. Yeah, so that was Outlander. I ended up giving it 3 stars. This week I also started reading Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl Strayed. I'm listening to this as an audiobook as well. This is an interesting book. It's unlike any book I've read. Cheryl Strayed was an anonymous columnist, an online columnist. People would write into her about problems and she would respond, and as under the name Sugar. I had no idea that this was going on. Like, when this was going on, I was like 13 or whatever. So but this book is made up of all of the different posts, all of the different responses that some of her favourites and some of the most well-loved and popular of that. I don't think it's every single post, but I think it's a lot of them. And I love the audiobook of this because it's read by Cheryl Strayed herself, and I should say I haven't read Wild, but I've seen the movie. So I knew a little bit of Cheryl Strayed, but I didn't really feel like just reading Wild because I already knew the story because I saw the movie. So I wanted to read Tiny Beautiful Things, and I started listening to it, and it's amazing. I'm loving it. It's potent. Like, I can only have a little bit at a time, and I'm exclusively listening to it when I'm going out walking. Like, I walk my dog for, half an hour or whatever, and it makes my walks my favorite part of the week. Like, she writes fantastic advice, but she writes honest advice. It's not about, like, yay, the world is positive, just think positively, yay! It's like staring the world straight in the eye and saying life is shit sometimes, but you can handle it. And it's really powerful, and it's powerful to hear the stories of people who are writing in, and it's powerful because even though they don't directly relate to you, sometimes they can relate to you indirectly, and you can find comfort in their story or support or camaraderie in their story, even if what you're going through is nothing like what they're going through. It's really lovely. I'm only like an hour or 2 hours in because, like I said, I'm only listening to it while I walk. So, yeah, I think I'm going to take my time with this one and just go slow. Yeah, so that's really what's happening. I guess then I will I will talk about the TBR, what is it? The June Topic-a-thon. I got there. I set a goal. I did not meet that goal. I set a goal of reading 100 Years of Solitude and Dr. Zhivago. Now, I said in that video that it was, a tall order, and that even if I just finished this one, I would be happy. I didn't even finish this one. As you can see, I have actually only read, like, maybe 50 pages since that video. I was saying that I was reading it, like, all the time, every day in that video, and I was, and then it just got a little too much. Like, I had to slow down, and I had to take a few days off. I finished Outlander at 3 times the speed. I read some other stuff, because this book is a lot. Like, there's just a lot in this novel. To compare it to Outlander, like I said, Outlander was bread. This is like a gourmet meal with like 15 different spices and like 7 different herbs, and so you take a mouthful and it's really full on, and you can't quite process everything at once. There's a lot to hold in your brain, and you kind of have to take one bit at a time. That's how I'm feeling. There's too much. I feel like Outlander was a 400-page story in an 800-page book. This is a 800-page book in a 400-page story. There is so much. I've read 170 pages, and I've gone through like 3 generations. It's crazy. It's amazing. It's one of the best things I've ever read. But what I'm saying is Marquez is too good. Like, it's such a fast pace, and I'm really loving it, but I'm just going to have to go slow with this one, which I'm fine with. But it did mean, I failed my challenge. Yeah, so I'm still reading this one, just at a slower pace. And that brings me to Dr. Zhivago. Dr. Zhivago. I picked up my copy of Dr. Zhivago, started reading it, and hated it. I really hated it. I thought, I really don't like this writing at all. And if it was an English novel, tough titties. Like, that's all you get. You either persist or you give up. And, but this one I was like, well, this was originally in Russian, so there are other, translations out there. I can have another go at reading Dr. Zhivago. So I looked up online and I found this audiobook that I loved. I listened to like 20-30 minutes of it, and it was amazing. It was so much better than this copy, which is by the P&V translation. But the audiobook didn't tell me what translation it was. It was infuriating. And then I asked someone online. I've forgotten his name. I feel bad about that. But yes, I asked his advice, and he told me, my computer, there we go. He told me a good translation, and I couldn't find it on Book Depository, so I actually had to go to my local bookstore. Anyway, it was a whole long drama. I have another copy of Dr. Zhivago, long story short. I've never bought a book twice. I've never had the need to buy a book twice, so it's very odd to have two stories that are the same yet also different. And I've started reading this one, just the first few pages, and I like it a lot more. So this one is translated by, hold on, Max Hayward and Manya Harari. Yes. So even though I adore this cover, I actually really like this cover as well. It's shiny. So yeah, I have two copies. I'm not sure what I'll do with this one. I think I might still just keep it, and after I've read this one, I might go back and try and read this one again, you know, at some point. Yeah, I'm not sure. So I haven't got to Dr. Zhivago yet, but I still plan to. Once I'm finished with Marquez, I will get to Dr. Zhivago. So that was my week in reading. I actually, I finished a massive book, yet I still feel like, yeah, there's always more I want to read. So thank you for watching. I will hopefully make another update next week.